Welcome guys to this series of videos I'm creating. I call it by frameworks because I want to take whatever framework you're using and try to break it into pieces so you can see that you don't need a framework. So this is going to be a huge dilemma. I can just visualize the comment saying that you have to use a framework. Well, one of the selling points of a framework, let's start this video, is the friendly URLs. I will show you how we do it without anything. Plain URL rewrite rules. Let's get started. If we go to VS Code or whatever editor you're using, I'm going to be pointing directly to the htdocs folder. That is the root folder of all my web projects. Point to that folder, make sure there's nothing in it. If you by any chance don't have the htdocs folder, maybe you have a www folder. It's right there where you will set up the rules for the optimization of the URLs. The first thing you need to do is you must have a .htaccess file. You must call it like that. And this file will contain all the rules. So we're going to start really simple. The first thing you need to do is you need to write the rewrite engine on. And this will tell the system that you will be generating rules for the friendly URLs. So let's create a page right away. Let's call it index.php. And the first rule, let's keep it really simple. Let's just say here we will display index. We save the index page, we save the htaccess, and we're going to move to Postman. You can do this with the browser if that's what you want. I will just use Postman, and over here we'll point to localhost. As you can see, it fetches the index page right away because that's the default behavior of the Apache server. So if I want to rewrite the rule index, so if I go here and then we say index and then we send the request, we can see that the page has not been found. But I would like to have this on. I know it doesn't make sense for now, but we are just getting started. So we will create a rule. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to write a condition, a rule basically, and the rule will be the following. You must open the caret and the $sign. This is the default rule. You just have it on. It's going to allow us to write regular expressions here. They also call regexes. So you can go and read more about it. I will not put a link on this video because there's so many regex tutorials. You will just have to find the one that you like the most. So I will say that the rule will be ABC, and this is what I'm going to match in the URL. So in Postman, I would like to match ABC. That's the idea of it. And as soon as I do ABC, obviously there is nothing called ABC in my system, so I get this error. And here comes the next part of the rule. You give a space. You can also tab if that's what you want. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that you put a space. And now we're going to tell the system which page we want to point when we call the ABC route. And then I would like to point to the index.php page. Let's save it. Let's test it. Now we get index when we point to ABC. So that is the beginning of the search engine friendly rules, URL friendly rules. You call it whatever you want. So you also have an option to put flags. You have to do the space and then you open and close the square brackets. And you can create a flag, for example, the NC flag. That means no case. In other words, that means case insensitive. And this just allows me to do something like A capitalized, B and C capitalized. It doesn't matter how you play with these letters, but the NC will be case insensitive. Let's test it in Postman. You can see that we still get the index. We still get the index. And if I capitalize all the letters, we still get the index. If we take the NC away, you can see that ABC capitalized is not the same as A capital, B small, and C capital. I hope you get the idea. So from now on, we are going to play with the no case or case insensitive. And there's another flag that you have to know about. It's the L flag. That means the last rule. In this case, if the system finds this rule here, it finds a match, this will be the last rule that we're going to execute. So if you had many rules, pretend that each of these rules are different, and there's a match in this rule here, the first one in line number 5, then the other rules will not be executed. So that's the idea of it. Now that I gave you a basic introduction for it, we are going to create real rules. The first idea is that if you want to point to, for example, users or customers or anything else, then you will have a friendly URL. For the sake of this explanation, in my system, everything will be related to items. So an item, consider it to be a user, consider it to be a customer, or a product. It could be anything. So we just use the items. So let's start trying to get the items. There's nothing there. So we'll create the first rule. We write rewrite rule, and we do the caret $, and over here we're going to point to items from the URL, and we want to call a file called, for now, show items.php. Give a space, remember the flags, no case, being case insensitive, and this will be the last route. This file here does not exist in my system, so I will create it. Create a new file, show items. The index file, I will delete it because we are not going to be using it, so we concentrate only on the things we need. Show items, pretend that you connect to the database, pretend that you loop, and then you create a lot of items. So in here you just display all items. This tutorial is not about connecting to databases, making the loops, it's just about URL rewriting. So now, if we point to items, we should see all the items. Let's check it. We have all the items. Now, before we continue, let's pretend that you point to items X. This route doesn't exist. Look at what we get out, a very ugly message, a website displaying the error. So to avoid that, what you do is you can create as the last line. That's how I usually do it. We do this, we say error document. If there is a 404, that means page not found. This is the default 404 error message or error code, status code. If that is the case, I would like to point to the root of this file, that's the htdocs folder, and then I would like to display the page 404.php. We don't have this page, we need to build it. So I copy this and let's build the 404.php page. In the 404, you will have an HTML piece of code with a nice image and so on. For now, I will just say page not found. We save it, we move to Postman, and then we get page not found because this route does not exist. So let's go to the items again. If we point to a different route, let's say items test, it doesn't exist, page not found. So that's the idea of it. 404 is done, we don't need it. Show items is done, we don't need it. So that is the general idea for these two routes. Now let's go and let's talk about right away about these methods. In any API or any page, you have the get method, post, and all these other routes that you don't really need. Sure, maybe you say, well, the delete route should be based on the delete method. You don't need it. The truth is that you don't need it. Everything happens after you have logged into a system. So for example, if you want to delete, if you want to update, that will be the patch. If you want to update, that could be the put. All these options here, most of them, are based on the system once you have logged in. So this will never be search engine optimized. This will never appear in a search engine. So for now, I will only concentrate in the get and in the post. So let's move here. If we want to display, let me put a comment here. If we say display the form to create an item. So this will be a route that we want to make it friendly. So we say rewrite, and then we're going to rewrite the rule. If we want to display the form to create an item, we do the caret $, and we have to invent a name for the URL. So we're going to say items/create. So this will create me an item. And this will point to the views folder. Pretend that we have a views folder. I will build that in a second. And then we will point to the items-create.php. So this will create an item. This will be case insensitive, no case, and this will be the last route. Route, I like to call it route. Make sure that you don't have spaces there or there. It will break the whole your rewrite. The same happens here or there. You should not have spaces there. So this will be the items create. I don't have this folder. Let's build it. The views folder. And I don't have this file, the items create.php. Let's build it as well. So now we have it. And in here we say, this is the form to enter data for an item. So this is a get, right? Let's check it. Let's move to Postman. We say items/create, and we get the form to enter the data for an item. If we go and we try to save the data, we will hit a different route. So now I'm going to create a comment here. This will be the get. So we will get all the gets here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I want the spaces there. The spaces there. So you get the data inside these routes, and you also want to be able to post data. So we'll create a new comment for posting routes. That will be for posting. So let's create the rule for the post. We say rewrite rule. Same as before, caret $, and then we are going to copy the exact same route as this one, items create. I want to do this so you learn it. But in this scenario, this is a post. I'm going to save the data in the database. So this is not going to point to the views folder. You could point to the controllers folder if you want it. I don't want to do that. I want, just for the sake of this example, to point to the API folder. And over here, I will say items-create.php. It's going to be no case, and it's going to be the last route. And over here, remember, I have this error document. So let's try it, and you will see what happens when I do this. We have this for get and this for post. So we move to Postman, create, that's a get, that's the method. And then when we choose post, and then we execute this command, we still see the exact same form. Imagine that's the form, right? That's the form you get. So that is the issue. To solve it, it's really simple. Once you have identified your rules, these are the rules for get, this is what you need to write. You say rewrite, it's going to be a condition. Let's break this into several lines. The condition is going to have this. You have to have the percentage open and closing curly braces. And then we're going to check the request method. Request method, and that will be for a get. This is the get that you write or you select here. That's the get. So if you want to do it for post, you copy this request method, and then we put it right there. And this will be for post. I don't have this folder. Let's create it. I will test it in a second. Let's just create the API folder. API. That has to be outside the views, right there. And inside the API folder, I need this file. New file, items, create. Now, The reason I call it items and items is because if you had a really complex system with users and customers and so on, it's very nice that you can just look at the name of the file and then you will know what the file is supposed to do. So I like doing that. In items create, I will just say post creating a item, an item, creating item. All right. So let's try it. We go to Postman. If we use the get method, we will get the form to enter the data, pretend that you enter the data, pretend that you click on a button, and now you save. And to save it, you point to the post. I did not change anything here. I just changed the method. And then when we send, it says post creating an item. So hopefully you guys understand how you do a get and how you do a post. For every route in the post, you have to put this line before the route. For every route in the get, you have to put this line before every route. So this route here is for a get. I need to put the line for getting there. Let's go to the next one. Now I will show you how we play with variables as well, because that's really important. Let's play with the update rule. So if you want to update a route, so usually you should display the form that allows you to show the data that the user contains. Imagine that you have already created an item, a user, and then you want to display the data for this user so you can later update it. So that's going to be a get. We put the get, we say rewrite rule, caret, $. And over here we say that the items we would like to update, and we need to update user 1 or item 1 or item 10 or item 100, whatever item we want to update. I will just hardcode 100 for now. We need to display the form for this specific item so we can update it. So I'm going to go to the views, and then I will create a page called items update.php. This is going to have the flag. It's going to be case insensitive, and it's going to be the last route. So if we do this, imagine that this 100 changes to 95. How do we get this value out? That is the idea of it. So here is where regular expressions will get into place. Over here, we're going to open and close parentheses, and we're going to throw a regex. This means a digit many times. I'm not going to get in depth in regular expressions. The topic is huge. You can go and read about it. This here will allow us to write any amount of digits. So you could, instead of doing this, you could do something like that. Those are all digits. But if you do something like this, these are not all digits, so this route will fail. So that is why I keep this with this regex. And this number is a variable. So we extend this route, and then we say that we want to pass in the URL a variable. You can call this variable whatever you want. Since this is going to be the ID of an item, I think a proper name will be ID. But again, you can call this item ID if that's what you want. I call it ID, and the ID will be, and you don't know the ID here, right? You don't know which ID the user will put there. Then you just have to know that this is the first variable. This is hard-coded, that's hard-coded, but this could be anything, and that's your first variable. To fetch the data from this first variable, you have to do this $1. This 1 is the number 1 variable. If you had more variables, this number will be 2 and so on, but I will show you that in a second. So that will be the ID. We do not have this file. I copy this name, and then we will create the file inside the views folder with a new file, the items create file. items update file. Sorry guys, it's the update file. Let's concentrate on the update file now. So I'm just going to throw an echo with PHP, and then I will write form to update user with ID. And over here, we are going to concatenate with a get. That's what we want. And we need to put here the name of the variable that we want to fetch. If you look at this variable name ID, that's the one that we want to copy and we want to paste. Save it. Let's go to items update followed by any digits. Let's do that. Items update. Let's just keep it like so for now. You can see the page is not found. Then we're going to update user with ID 333. Page not found. All right, let's check it. Items update 333. We check this, items, update, any number of digits, and that will take me to the views page, items update.php. I have the items update.php created inside the views. Let me check it. I do have it. So the rule is not doing anything. Let me think about it. ID equals 1. Let me just keep it simplified. I will not pass ID or anything. I will not pass this regex just to test it. So if I go to items update, I should go to this page. Save it. Let's retest it. Oh, I see the error. You can see I was taking these variables away because I wanted to debug in the easier way. And since this didn't work either, I realized that this is a post method and I should be using the get method. You can see it here. I had to use the get method. Now I can undo the changes, save it, and retest it. That page is not found, obviously not, and then I will use the user 323, and then it says form to update user with ID 333. If the ID changes to 1, you get the message updating the user with ID 1. So that's the form to update the user. Now pretend that you have updated the user in the form, you have set a new name, you have set a new item name, a new item price, and so on. You can think of it as anything an item could be. And once you send the data by pressing the update button or save data button, you will post the data. You can patch, you can put. I don't recommend you guys doing that. It's PHP and Apache is not going to understand that by default. You can create any professional system which just gets and post. So over here, I will just copy this route, the one that said items update. I will paste it. And then I will get the items update, follow with a digit. But in this scenario, I will not point to the views, I will point to the API, because this API will be in charge of updating an item. Let's copy this name. In the API folder, we're going to create a new file and then we paste it. Over here again, we're just going to create a simple message. And the message will say, updating item with ID, and then the ID will be whatever we get via the get URL, the query string. And we call this variable ID, therefore I need to point to the ID. If you guys have called this variable item ID, then you will copy it and then you will place the item ID there. Let's do with item ID so you see that it actually works. So we go to the get method. We're going to update user 1. We get the form. We get the, I keep on saying user, item 1. We get the form. We get the item name, the item price, and so on. And then we click on save. When we save, we go to post, and then we send the data to post, updating item with ID 1. But when you post something, you usually want to be able to show or to grab the data that you pass via post. So I will pretend that the item has a name. So I will say update name to, and let me just do this inside this PHP. Why not? Like so. We may not get all the break lines, but let's try it. The name, the new name, because we're updating, the new name is, and we are going to fetch the new name from post, and we are going to pass a variable called item name. So this is what I want to try now. Semicolon there, semicolon there. All right. So from Postman, I will just make this post without a name. I send the data, and then it says I don't have the item name. So inside the body, we're going to create a form, because that's the form that we have generated with HTML. The item name will be AAA. We send the data, update item with ID 1. Now we don't see the data in item name. This AAA should be displayed. Item name is the variable name. Let's check it. Item name is being passed via post. The new name is post item name. That's the post. That's the item ID. Let me just recheck it. 2. That's working fine. From data is displaying AAA. Okay guys, that's pretty weird. I don't see why I'm not getting that. Items update.php. The new name is updating item with ID 22. I'm not seeing this part here. Okay, let me break this into a new line then. 2 lines of PHP. Like so. I will take this away. I will take that away. Let's try it. Okay, the new name is AAA. There was nothing wrong with the routing. It was just something with my code there. You can optimize this. It doesn't really matter. For now, it's working fine. So let's go to the next idea. If you want to delete an item, for example, if you want to delete an item, you don't need to post anything. You can just, once you have logged in, you can just point to a route that deletes an item. So I will copy this route, paste it there. It's going to be a get. We say items delete, and then we're going to pass the item ID. This is not going to go inside the view, so we can just create this as an API. And then we're going to call the items delete.php page, passing the ID that we want to delete, as simple as that. I copy this route name, this page name. I go to the API folder, create the exact same name, and then I'm going to just echo a message here with PHP, simple like so, in which I will say deleting item with ID, and then over here we're going to concatenate with the get ID. Let's give it a try. We save. Let's move to Postman. Now we say items delete. In purpose, without any ID, the page is not found, but we're going to delete the item with ID 1. Page not found. Let's check it. Items delete with digits, API, items delete.php. Again, guys, this is a get. I'm using a post, so I need to switch to a get method. Now we are deleting the item with ID 1. Let me show you the last route. Well, you get the idea. You can continue with this creating routes. That's everything you probably need with most systems. It doesn't get more complicated than this. Then I will show you another example. Imagine that you want to go to your company domain name, and then you want to show something like this. Let's say that you want to show shoes for men, or this could also be shoes for women. So we show you how we make this very URL friendly. if you have something like this, company, passing the category, that will be shoes, and the gender, that will be, for example, men, or it could be women. You get the idea. So this route should be this one, looking good, friendly route, and this should be that. So that's what I will show you now. I will delete this, I will delete that, and I will just keep this with the main word. It doesn't really matter what you write there. Let's create the route. First of all, it's going to be a get, of course, yes, because that will be display the data for shoes for men. And over here, we're going to say that, let me also copy this and all that. Okay, so items, that will be the coming there. Items, now we want to put shoes here, right? Shoes, it could also be pants, it could also be t-shirts, it could be whatever you can imagine. So over here, we are going to create the first regex. We're going to say that we allowed any letter from A to Z and from capital A to capital Z. We could also allow underscores and dashes if that's what you want. I don't want dashes, I delete it. I don't want underscores, I delete it. You could also allow any number from 0 to 9, but I don't want that, therefore I delete it. So this is what I want to pass. Just plain English letters from A to Z, capital or small. And I want to be able to pass many of those. The plus means many. That will be my first variable. This, in this scenario, will be shoes. Then I'm going to be able to pass the word men or women, or it could be kids, it could be anything else. And those are just going to be words. Therefore, I allowed the exact same regex to happen. Only A to Z, small and capitalized letters, many of them. Once I have reached that regex, this condition, I'm going to call the file that is inside the views folder, and then I'm going to call it items-display.php because I want to do that. I want to invent that name. No case, and the last route. So here comes the tricky thing. I want this to be one variable and that to be another variable. So I'm going to just give some spaces here so you can see, right there. So I will say that the first variable is going to be the category, and the category, let me just move this a little bit more to the left because I don't want to zoom out. So the first variable is the category, being shoes, t-shirts, whatever. The second variable is the gender, being male or female, men or women. So the category will be the first variable. $1 refers to this one, that's the first one. And the second variable, I call it gender, is going to be the second variable. This $2 refers to this part of the URL. I hope you guys understand it. I have never broken this into lines. I don't even know if this would work. You can see the whole thing. I will give it a try. Maybe I break the whole system. So far it's not really doing anything productive at least. Okay, I cannot break it into lines, so you have to remember what I did. First and second variable, which is first and second variable. Let's create this file, items-display.php, inside the views folder. And this is going to be quite nice because I want to fetch both variables. So I will throw a message here. The category is, and then I will follow this by the get, that I will get the variable. I call the variable category, the first one. And then I will follow this with a messaging and this I can break into lines. And the gender is, and then I will show whatever I have in the get in the variable that I called gender. Paste it, save it. Now let me close this. So over here we have a route that it's a get. We do a get items. We are going to say shoes. That page is not found, it doesn't exist. Men or male, that would be the gender. Page not found, or female, page not found. Okay, let's fix it. We have items with these two regexes. Views items display.php. Let me see. Views items display.php. That seems to be correct. And this will point to or pass these two variables, the category and the gender. Let's see what I'm doing wrong here. I will just delete that comment. I will just keep it simple again. I will take this route out, this regex out, sorry. I will just say that it has to be items, anything from A to X. I will do this, items X containing anything from A to Z, right? And this will point to just the page called items display.php. Save it, and now we're going to test it. Items X, page not found. Let me see. Items X, passing something. All right, let me pass something. A, B, C. Page not found. Okay, that's pretty weird, because this should find the items X, A, B, C. Let's do something else. Let's delete this regex and let's see if that works. Item X. Okay, here we get it working. So something must be wrong in my regex, I guess, or we'll check it in a second. So items X does work. Obviously we don't have the category and we don't have the gender. That's why we see these warning messages. So let's continue now. We say items / and then we need to throw the regex. So we do the parentheses, we do the square brackets, and then we set the A to Z or A to Z. And this can happen many times. I think I did the plus sign before right there. I'm not sure about it, but let's try it. So items, and then I will pass something. Let's check it. Items, I will pass something. That's quite good. So this is working fine. Obviously, I don't have the category or the gender. Let me undo. I'm curious about my previous mistake. I undo all these tests that I had before. Yeah, I can see that. This is my error. That's the error. Okay, let's fix it. The plus sign goes after this condition, and the plus sign goes after the condition. All right, we save it. We test it again. We will say items, shoes, not found, for male. Yes, the category is shoes and the gender is male. Shoes for female. Then we get the shoes and the gender is for male. All right, guys, I think I have given you a really good idea about how the URL rewriting works. Now we have this route in get, this route also in get, and then we have the post routes. Once you have defined your routes, you will get the system up and running with no real effort. And it's going to be so performance oriented because it just has to read this file and point to the correct file that you have defined. So I hope that you guys like it. Remember to subscribe to my channel. Write some comments about it. I know some of you will like this a lot. And get notifications because I will be working on these by frameworks a lot. I will improve my videos and then I will create a series of a lot of code that makes it much easier than using a framework. Thank you guys for watching this video.